It's late in the evening, in a small, dark and rainy town in Sweden. Upstairs, a 2-year-old is fast asleep. The wife is out with her colleagues, and it's a work day tomorrow. I should really get to bed. Let's start a YouTube channel. Hi there people, and welcome to the first episode of the Lagom Effort Electronics channel. I'll start this off with 2 episodes about the Schneider EuroPC. Now, the Schneider company hasn't existed since 2002, but they date back all the way to the 1800s. And in the 60s, they went from woodworking tools to audio electronics, and not until the 80s they had anything to do with the computers. And the computer division was created after because of this temporary fling with Amstrad, the Amstrad company, sometime around 84. That lasted for about 3 years, and they broke up and acquired the entire PC compatibles division from Commodore. And from 1988 onwards, the EuroPC was a fact. Now, this particular EuroPC has been in the family for quite a while now. Must be 25 years or something. And probably in the box for 20. So, a few weeks ago I had the idea that I should really get this out of here and try to remove the battery from the motherboard, because I was fairly sure it was leaking by now. And this eventually sparked the idea of creating this channel, even though I was just documenting the process for myself, really. At this point I was basically just trying to get the boxes out of the cupboard without having to remove the door, but yeah, that went so and so. But hey, here they are. So as I said, these boxes have been stored for 20 years, and before that the computer was used for a short while. It was decommissioned by some company and my brother acquired it, and it's been jumping around the siblings now until it ended up with me. We can see in the box we have the EuroPC, and it has an identity number, and just to be okay, yeah, well, that's a disappointment. Anyway, there are some stuff in the box, and here we find, for example, the floppy drive, an external floppy drive, and we find an Atari mouse. And actually the Atari mouse and joysticks are compatible with this machine, which is a bit odd because most of the mice back then were serial. And well, the ports are in the back here, and that doesn't look too good. The other ports are fine though, but this motherboard is gonna be nasty. Yeah, let's check out the monitor instead. Actually, this is a fun fact for the Atari fans out there. This monitor and the Atari SM124, the 12-inch, is actually pretty much identical. The buttons and the LED is in exactly the same spot, and most of the chassis is identical. The stand, the swivel stand you see here, is kind of off color for the Atari, and that's because it's stolen from the Schneider, and it clicks perfectly in place. I was really not thrilled by the look of that mouse port, so I thought I'd just scrape some styrofoam here and pass the time, maybe make a joke about the web here, maybe go through the documentation. Here we have a document that tells you how to write a paragraph sign in Works. You copy and paste it from another document. There's a manual for the floppy drive, the external one. There is a quick reference for Microsoft Works with a Schneider logo on it, actually, and the Microsoft name. There is a certificate that this is a product, and also a certificate that this is a hi-fi system. So now we know. Also, well, yeah, manual for the monitor and a Dell software license agreement that probably doesn't belong here. The manual seems to be missing though. So the footage you're looking at right now is, it was not intended to go on YouTube really, it was just for my personal documentation. So the quality of this video is really not good. Well, we can take a look at... Well, hi there people, and welcome to the LEEC, specifically potassium hydroxide. And it's covering most of the chips in this area, and tries to escape from this port here for some reason. That's a little bit odd. Alright, let's cut this battery out. I'll try to scrape some of the corrosion off here and see if there's any chance of copper underneath. Some isopropanol might help. Not really. Of course it wouldn't work because this is potassium hydroxide and we need acid. So I'll pop the motherboard out to be able to clean it properly. And it's actually just plastic clips. It's just one nut here for the earth cable. And on with the vinegar. Now this is pure white vinegar, nothing else, and it's key that there's no funny stuff in it. It's as pure as possible. I'm not planning to work too hard on this motherboard because, well, it's probably not going to be a very durable board after all of this corrosion, but I'll do my best to try to at least neutralize the corrosion and clean up what I can. And there's probably going to be quite a lot of residue on this board, so I'll just rinse it off under the tap, really. It is probably not a good idea, but I mean, what's the worst that can happen? It could work. Some flux and some soldering to see if I can, cook out some of the corrosion from underneath the circuits, and apparently I'll knock over the camera to get to the worst bits of the motherboard and try to clean that up with some desoldering braid. Now the copper here is really, I mean, it's lost. There is no copper here anymore, so when I put some new components in, there's a resistor and a diode, I'll actually use the legs of those components to try to rebuild the copper traces. And we'll see if that works. Now, before we can try it, we need to dry it properly. We don't want to start this up with water in it, or the corrosion will be even worse. Alright, let's try this. Well, there's certainly life from it, although I can't see anything because the screen doesn't turn on. It's switched on, but I'll just give it a whack. Well, that did it. The screen, just like the Atari, has a rotary switch on it, and it probably got stuck. So after cleaning up the connector a bit, I got the synchronization working, and we can see the errors from the BIOS. RTC error, video setup error, speed setup. Oh yeah, there's quite a lot of errors going on here, but of course there's no battery in it now, so the RTC clock chip probably doesn't work properly, but hey, it's running for the first time in 20 years. Now I seem to have some problem with the shift key. Well, not necessarily the shift key. It behaves like it's pressed, but when I press shift I get a different behavior. So I think there is some bit stuck on the motherboard. I'll look into this further in the next episode, where I'll also try to replace the battery with a normal coin cell battery. So thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you again very soon.